Now everything is automated and centralized. So if you don't clear your taxes now, if at all you want to, in future, you want to get a contract or something, you might have a challenge getting the compliance certificates.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome, this is Show Me the Market, and today we have a beautiful story and we have a beautiful thing that we want to show you so that at least you can see and as well understand. It's all about the business rescue. Most and many people have their businesses, but when it comes at a times when it is falling down, they don't know the way to move forward and the root cause maybe of the problem. Today, joined me is Muhammad Ahmed Muhammad, who is going to tell us more about the strategies and how we can rescue our businesses. And I hope you're going to enjoy this. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum salam.
كيف الحال يا شيخ؟
Alhamdulillah.
MashaAllah. Welcome so much to our studios today. And I think this topic of discussion, it's so wide.
Yes.
And most people, they'll have to understand despite any person who is doing any type of business. Yes. Bismillah, maybe you can start by maybe introducing yourself. Who is Muhammad Ahmed Muhammad?
Yeah, so, well, you've got the name right.
Alhamdulillah.
Muhammad Ahmed Muhammad. So, by profession, I'm an accountant, but mostly into financial advisory. I do financial advisory, restructuring, and I'm also an insolvency practitioner in the business.
Yes.
So what an insolvency, for financial advisor, I'm sure you understand, insolvency practitioner basically means you are licensed now to manage businesses through a legal process that are going through financial challenges so that they can also be protected, and you come up with creditors plans and see how best that you can be able to repay those debts based on available assets and cash available in the business.
Nice.
Yes.
And that's awesome. And I think you're the best person and you fit for this discussion today. Welcome once again.
Thank you.
Today our topic of discussion is business rescue.
Yes.
For those who are listening to this term for the first time, what is business rescue according to your experience and you being into this field for so long?
Okay, business rescue is a wide term and it entails so many things because people talk about turnarounds, people talk about restructuring, people talk about transformation, and those are the first levels of business rescue. Now, where those don't work, then we've got the Insolvency Act 2015 in Kenya, which allows businesses to be able to transition or to get some breathing space for a period of, say, about 12 months to put the house in order before they actually make a decision whether they want to continue or they want to liquidate. Okay. So unlike now, prior to 2015, the act did not exist. We had a receivership act, which meant that when your business is not doing well, the banks or creditors could just take over. Now with this new act, okay, not new, but from 2015, I'll call it new because that's the new act. Yes. You have licensed insolvency practitioners like us who come in, and you can be appointed by shareholders, you can be appointed by directors, or you can be appointed by the court. Okay. Where now you come up with a structure of the business, which could be through administration, or it could be through a voluntary arrangement, or even could be through, where if both don't work, then you end up having now to make the necessary recommendations of liquidation. So the act is meant to be able to create, equality and sanity for all the stakeholders when it comes now to sharing out of payment. This is just in a nutshell. But also more important to see how the business can be rescued while protected legally. Because at the moment when businesses that are going through a lot of challenges, they get financial challenges, they get a lot of problems from auctioneers, landlords,
even suppliers,
judgments, suppliers, liquidation notices. So all that requires
forgetting the government itself.
Carry. Yes. So you need to have a mechanism of how all these challenges can be managed. Sometimes it can be a bit of an expensive process, but the way I look at it is, I like working with an organization more like to help them come out of that situation. The unfortunate reality is that many organizations decide to get help when it's almost too late. Yeah,
11th hour.
It's like the 11th hour, and that's why the rate of success at the moment is not very good in Kenya. In other parts of the world, you have, I think I think some parts of the world it's like 60%. It ranges between 38 to 63% in terms of success, because there's no guarantee that it will succeed, but at least it can create some comfort. You can be able to recover something in that process, and that's why it's important.
Wow, and that's a very good brief and a good start explaining the business, maybe the business rescue itself. And I think for this business rescue to be there must be a key component or need be for this rescue to be there. Maybe what are the key leads to this business rescue?
So, well, by the time now the shareholders or the directors decide that now this business requires to be rescued, obviously you definitely need to create some short-term liquidity to finance that process. Okay? Because what will determine it is, for example, your ability or inability to pay debts, okay, especially critical debts. And there are signs, like if, say, you have delayed salaries or not paying your salaries, or, for example, if you have rent arrears, your bank loan arrears, if at all you have taken a loan, and even now your tax obligations, okay, if they're all behind, then you are getting into trouble. So once you start seeing those signs, now you have to have a very clear demarcation of how you're going to resolve them, because these things have a way of catching up with you in the future. For example, like taxes. Now everything is automated and centralized. So if you don't clear your taxes now, if at all you want to, in future you want to get a contract or something, you might have a challenge getting the compliance certificate to enable you now to move forward.
Okay.
So, and then also, even for employees, it's important that you resolve their dues. And the rest can actually, you enter into negotiated terms, where maybe some of those debts might not be very critical, but for the critical debts, like you must have a plan, like for taxes, salaries, to be resolved. Those are the key functions and what I would say highlights in terms of now managing that business process. So then also now, prior to that, like I mentioned when I was starting, is upon assessment on the financials, because a lot depends on how you assess the financial statements. Then that's the time you come up with a structure of whether it could be a turnaround plan. Okay, maybe it can be done without going through the act, or maybe like if it's a transformation, it's more about diversification of the business. So you have to assess those financial statements. So now through those telltale signs, those telltale signs will only come in after assessment of those financial statements, really to be able now to determine which is the way forward for the business. Maybe it can be done in a short term, maybe it might take a longer term, but it's usually a very heavy and tough exercise, an uphill task, especially if it's left to the 11th hour, the way you say it.
Yeah, we've experienced and we've seen also some business, they are starting so well with a good peak itself, till at a point whereby they are opening other branches, so that, and the moment you see a business person opening other branches, it means that the business is doing so well. But at the long run, you come and find out that, oh my God, whatever thing they are doing, maybe they're not paying one or two things, which is coming to affect them later. And the good point that you've mentioned is about the key factors about it. But maybe what is the overview of the steps and strategies of maybe now coming into this business rescue?
Okay, now if I may answer the part where you said you think a business is doing well.
Yes.
And by opening more branches.
Yes.
For me, I see that as a number one mistake that many businessmen make.
They do.
Yeah. Because the question is, how do you finance the growth? And you find many using working capital to finance growth. Working capital, now what do I mean? Usually working capital is short term. Yeah, you sell, you get paid your money, you sell a product, you get paid, and you use that same money now to pay your vegetable guys, your suppliers. So it's a very short-term cycle. So now, when you're selling and you take that money and you open a branch somewhere else, then now you don't have the liquidity to pay off, to pay the suppliers who are supplying you. And you know, most of these suppliers are also really operating on tight conditions. Yes. So a supplier might not be able to supply you, not because he or she doesn't want, but because now he or she also needs to be financed, okay, to go to the farm to pick that stuff.
To get the produce.
To get the produce.
Yes.
So now, if you don't pay them, now you start lacking some products. So the quality of your product starts going down because you don't have the initial ingredients that actually gave that quality of food or whatever products that was there that made people come to your branch, and all of a sudden that quality disappears. So then your traffic starts going down. And when you open a new branch, you've not done a proper feasibility or assessment to see that it can break even. And you might find that you've opened a new branch, maybe you don't get the footfall that you're getting in the first branch. So the other mistake, okay, you'll find that is that maybe this one branch now is supporting the other one.
Yes.
So there's no, the profits are not being realized. So it's just like, you're working for the landlord and just to pay salaries.
Before that, before you answer the question again, the other question, you've mentioned something like, I've mentioned opening another branch, thinking that the business is doing so well, but you told me that that's the first mistake. Maybe what is the best time for me to, when I'm doing this type of business, any business that I'm thinking is doing wonders and doing great to the country or to the locality where I am, maybe what is the best time for me to venture into opening other branches?
Well, if you can open from your profits. If you're making good profits, you must make sure that you have enough profits, and before you open this other branch, the new one, at least there's enough money. That is the traditional approach. But if you look at now, what people do is people get bank financing to open, which is still a danger because, again, assume setting up a restaurant the way you see some of these restaurants. I'm very sure maybe it can cost anything between 20 to 30 million to set it up. So how sure are you that you're going to sell enough to be able now to pay your rent, to repay your loan, to pay your employees, to pay electricity, to pay all those things? So you definitely have to do a proper feasibility, and you need to have a separate source of funding for that particular branch. Now, I will encourage more about shareholder funds coming in, which could be now from the profit, and if you're able now even to liquidate some what you call non-core assets. Sometimes someone just has an asset, it's seated there. So you can convert it into a factor of production, dispose it, and then bring that money into the business so that you can grow your business without interfering in your working capital. That way then you don't compromise the quality of your products. Now people have different philosophies on this because some use the working capital and then it works, but it's like gambling. Okay? And businessmen take risks, and sometimes when they take risks, for them it's a matter of it works or doesn't work. But from a professional point of view, it's better now you really know how, from the word go, how you can be able now to mitigate some of these risks before it gets out of hand. And especially where there are many shareholders, because you also must protect the interests of other shareholders. If you're alone, it's a single risk. But if you're like 10 or 20 or 100, then you must make sure that whatever you're doing, the investments of other shareholders is protected, and you must be as cautious as possible in that business.
Thank you so much for answering that. And I think my viewer back at home, you're getting and to understand each bit by bit. I'm taking a short break. When I get right back, we're going to continue and having much discussion on business rescue. And I think at this point, it's a good time for me to take a short break because when I'm coming back, I'm coming with more questions with good answers. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Once again, welcome back. This is Show Me the Market, and our topic of discussion today is business rescue. And in our first half, we've discussed a lot and we've understood what is business rescue and some of the key factors that comes into this topic of discussion. And moving forward with my guest here in studio, Ahmed Muhammad, he is trying to explain more and expand so that at least we can understand and get the benefit and how we can rescue our businesses from which angle that we are doing or from which angle we are dealing with. Moving forward, Muhammad, into these businesses, there must be stakeholders. There must be maybe employees and different person, creditors, employees, stakeholders, shareholders themselves into this. Maybe how are these people affected with this topic of discussion?
So now, if you're going for the turnaround and transformation and restructuring, the first level of engagement on the stakeholders will be mostly the directors or shareholders themselves. Yeah. And that is for a private company. For a listed company, mostly the directors can be able to engage now with the influence of maybe some key shareholders who might want now to see the business turn around or being restructured. Thereafter, once you come up, once you set the pace or you set the terms, of course there's the financial, you review, there's the review of the financial statements now to start determining how are you going to approach this. Now they also, which is the best way of approaching, and usually that is review of the income statement, projections, and the balance sheet to determine the viability of the business in terms of negative working capital or positive working capital. And when you're developing the plan now, the key stakeholders in that plan, after the directors, first of all, there's the leadership of the organization. Like the leadership they have to be in sync. They must support, especially if it's coming from, like at the board level. And then number two, employees are very important to participate in the process, because in whichever way you're going to proceed in the rescue, employees are part and parcel. They must participate in the process, because you can't do it alone. Remember, you cannot be an expert in every business. You have to go in and learn the business, and the only way you can learn the business is now working with the employees and coordinating with them, and that the different approaches. You can have a top-down approach, or bottom-up, or just something maybe through market research. And you also now need to implement elements. You also have to work on whether there's need for change of culture or change management, because they all have to go hand in hand. If the employees are not engaged to do that process, it will become very hard. So all these stakeholders are very important. You see, they all have a part to play in that process, because there's a first level where you engage. You talk to the directors or shareholders, you come back, there's now the review of the numbers of financial statements, and even before you develop the plan, you need input now from the employees and all other stakeholders, even if it means talking to creditors. And then now whatever plan you come up with, now you have to engage these people, get their buy-in, and then you also need to have what you call the monitoring and evaluation process to make sure that this plan actually is implemented and moves.
It is moving forward.
And moving.
Okay.
Yeah.
Some of these businesses, maybe for one reason or another, why they're failing, it's because of maybe financial challenges or a lot of debts that the business has created for itself. Maybe what does this business rescue address when it comes to these financial challenges and the debts itself?
Okay, the main thing for a business, first of all, is to determine whether you have enough working capital or not. And if a business is able to generate positive cash, what I mean positive cash means that whatever you're selling, you can pay your expenses, you're okay. Okay, not very okay, but you can survive. So when in determining that, if where you see, which I've explained initially, where you see that your working capital mostly is starting to get affected, because when it's negative, you start missing out on some core services, core raw materials, which you're not able to pay for, that add quality to your products. So it's very important at that time, and maybe low staff morale. There's such a lot that needs to be addressed at that moment. And maybe the way you are saying it, cash challenges, even the question comes up like, how did you even get into that position of cash challenge? One is that maybe your business did not take off as expected. Currently, we also, many businesses in Kenya are experiencing business challenges. It means the buying power of many people has gone down, or you find that people maybe are just mostly focusing on just basic commodities. And you know, any exterior businesses beyond the basic commodities tend to suffer because for many people they don't see them as a critical item, or they don't see them as priority. Because priority now, you find mostly people struggling on food, shelter, you know, education, and you know, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You know, like if you look at the bottom of the pyramid, these are really the key things that people are focusing on. So where some businesses have indulged in activities or businesses beyond that, I also see them facing a lot of challenges because of the changing preferences of consumers in the market, and also part of what has affected some of those goods is also the enforcement of taxes or introduction of taxes, which is good and bad. For me, that's a topic for another day. But in the short term, definitely many businesses are facing those challenges.
Financial challenges and debt itself. But I think for a business person, you should have a plan. Like now we are coming up with the structures of maybe business rescue plan. How will this business rescue plan rescue this business in terms of these debts that they are facing each and every time? Okay,
sometimes the business is not doing well, not necessarily because of debt. Sometimes you have your own money you put into the business and you lose your money in that investment. Yeah. So other than debts, it will also be capital erosion. Now, when you're talking about capital erosion here, is when you started a business. Say, for example, you started, I'll just use this as a simple example. Yes. Let's say you decide to start a salon. You put in your money, your investment, 500,000, and you expect now people to be coming there. And then they don't come. So what happens is, you see, at the end of every month, you must still pay your rent. You must still pay your staff. You must still pay electricity. So if there's no adequate money coming into the business, what happens is that you start now eating up on your capital and savings. So within 6-7 months or a year, you find that you've got nothing to push the business forward. So when it comes to this business rescue, when you're talking about a plan from the owners, not very many people have plans. And then even to do some of these plans, again, it's also expensive for many of these organizations. Because remember, today Kenya has so many SMEs, and these SMEs are just surviving. They're just there because if you compare the ratio of corporates, the ones that are making those big profits, and the SMEs, I mean, we are mostly with SMEs, and those are owner-managed businesses. Most of these guys, you know, they've not gone into those into those studies or getting those skills of doing the plans. They work based on their own intuition of how the business can be able to succeed. So some succeed and some don't. Now, to say they have a plan, yes, that is a very structured way. But to be realistic on the business, or how the business, if we relate that now to Kenyan business, they need to be seeking, I think, guidance on some of the matters. And they should also not feel that incurring some of these costs is expensive. It's more expensive now. You know, they say cheap is expensive. When you try to avoid certain costs, that's now when you end up being hit with bigger costs. Okay. So at times it's just good to have a budget to have. You don't need to go for expensive advisors or what, but it's just good now to be engaging some people who have experience in these matters.
At the long run, as the business
continues to catch up.
Okay, yeah. That's all right. And maybe what are some of the maybe innovations and maybe new things that maybe you can say it has improved when it comes to the matters of business rescue?
So again, innovation is, you can call it innovation or transformation, and it's really how businesses now are agile enough to change on market preferences. If you look at yourself, like, you know, in the media industry, you find that now you're competing now with other social media platforms. Yeah, you're competing with, you know, this means like WhatsApp, TikTok, and sometimes you ask yourself, how do you keep up with that? Because by the time you decide to announce, let's say if there was a fire somewhere at your 7 o'clock bulletin, and the fire happened at 6 a.m., people already know. So by the time you are really going
it's
on
not
air,
news anymore.
It's not news anymore.
Yes.
Then again, why it's important to listen to that news, because again, you don't know the credibility of some sources or of this information that goes around. So again, it's been pirated and diluted significantly, where you can't even be able to rely on proper information. So innovation comes in, even you as on your side, like how do you innovate to ensure that, you know, you have the right audience constantly wanting to listen to you all the time, to make sure that they can have access to reliable news.
You know, when we were starting, you mentioned something about the U. Was it the U bill or?
No, the Insolvency Act.
Yes, the Insolvency Act.
2015.
About it. Is it among the new innovations and maybe transformations that they came along? Will the business rescue it's taking action itself?
I don't know if you'll call it an innovation, but it is part of the government support to help the businesses, because you'd find that in previously the secured creditors, secured here means people who have a charge on property. If let's say you've taken a loan, they will take everything and not leave anything for others.
Yes.
Now with the new act, it provides some transparency in the process, okay, and then also ensures that all stakeholders are taken into account. This means shareholders, secured creditors, unsecured creditors, and preferred creditors. Okay, where under preferred, you know, you've got salary and arrears, you've got legal fees, you've got tax obligations. On secured now, you've got the banks and people who've got a qualifying floating charge, which is like a debenture on the assets of the company, or they have a secured charge on a certain property. And then the unsecured now, the normal creditors. So these normal creditors, they have to be very careful also when they're engaging companies to make sure that they don't dip themselves so much that they can end up now losing almost everything in their business.
Wow, and that's awesome explanation about it itself. And I think at this time we don't have much time to continue, but the story and the topic itself, it's so huge that we cannot complete each and everything at this hour. And I'd really like to thank you, Muhammad Ahmed, for coming in.
Okay.
Stepping in and also telling us about the business rescue itself. And we're planning to have the part 2 of this topic of discussion, so that at least you, my viewer back from home, you can get it and understand more. Because while dealing with this type of rescue, or if you want to rescue a business, there are some things that you want to rescue as well. Mathalan, mentioning like you want to create the trust itself to the consumers, and also to those people, to the investors themselves who are coming to invest in your business. How can you deal with this? This is among the questions that we'll be asking in the next season, and the next episode that will be coming up next week, same place, same time. We're going to discuss more about the business rescue. Thank you so much for watching Horizon TV, for choosing Horizon TV itself. This is Show Me the Market, and my name is Abdurrahman Gaddafi Yassin, and my guest today was Muhammad Ahmed Muhammad.